One.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The voice of the creative economy.
With Vincent Heeringa.
From Idealog magazine, idealog.co.nz. G'day there, Vincent.
Good morning, Wammo.
And also Good magazine as well. I suspect that we're more on the good side of things this morning because we are talking fair trade and in particular bananas.
It's all good.
All good.
It is Fair Trade Fortnight, which is an annual event celebrating the fair trade movement. And it's an interesting kind of take on addressing poverty and exploitation in the third world, not through political lobbying or through protest, but kind of protest using your wallet. It's an attempt to put a price premium on commodities such as coffee and chocolate and tea and bananas as a way of rewarding the growers rather than the middleman.
Had Steve Knapp, the CEO of Fair Trade New Zealand, on the show on Monday, and it was interesting to find out that the range of products is expanding.
Yeah, it is expanding all the time, and the market for it is expanding too. He probably knows the statistics better than me, but the quoted number is that overall in Australia and New Zealand the category is growing at about 200% a year. So if you put that in the context of the global recession and kind of the grocery trade being down overall, that's a pretty good growth story.
Yeah. As you say, especially at a time where everyone's wallets are squeezed and we're way more price sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely. So it shows that there's a portion of the population that are prepared to pay a little bit more if they know that there is an ethical story behind the product, and they feel like they're rewarding, in their minds at least, the right kind of people, which is the growers, and rather than the Nestlés and the Dole pineapples and the banana traders.
Well, so what's interesting about the banana side of things for you?
Well, for me, the thing about fair trade, and we'll come back to some of the economic issues around it, but one of the cool things about fair trade is that it's not just a price premium. There's a bunch of factors that go into the fair trade certification, and one of them is around providing a fair price to people, but it's also to do with the way that the crops are grown. They often link to an organic or at least a semi-organic approach to farming. So there is a kind of more sustainable approach to the tilling of the land and the treatment of the land, rather than the kind of monocultural approach of the large industrial farmers, where they will, one landowner will clear a huge amount of land and just plant pineapples or bananas, and the workers are paid, according to the local conditions. And there's a huge amount of exploitation that happens in those large plantations, and particularly around the use of insecticides and pesticides. And the banana story is just an incredible, tragic story of poor, unprivileged, uneducated workers who are exploited by, it's a classic kind of Dickensian story of exploitation by local landowners who provide insufficient safety gear and protections for the use of these chemicals. And there's now so much evidence of intergenerational effects of these pesticides on families through mutations, through sickness, through cancers. Absolutely heart-rending stuff, and happening, in the 21st century when we ought to know better.
Yeah. And often these banana companies aren't even really owned by the countries themselves, are they?
No, they're typically multinationals, and I don't want to get into a multinational bashing exercise because, I am a capitalist, Wammo. But there is absolutely no reason why, in a capitalist regime, why customers can't protest against the sourcing and treatment of the people and the products in their supply chain. So fair trade seems to me to be a kind of the perfect example of capitalism at its best, where the informed consumer is rewarding and punishing the manufacturer according to how they've treated the people in the process.
Yeah.
And the environment along the way.
Can't remember the last time I bought a banana. I used to buy them all the time, but
really?
But then I think I did make a decision about the fact that, well, heck, they're not growing here. and I know we can't grow them here anyway, but and all the the distance they come and the pesticides, I could do without it.
Yeah. Well, most supermarket chains now will have these All Good bananas, which is one of the brands that's brought in by the and that's fair trade certified. So they're a great food, and one of the things that really bugs me about the kind of sustainability movement is this local thing. It really pisses me off that if you can't buy it locally, then don't buy it at all. Well, how is that fair to the people of Paraguay or Ecuador? That's the place where you grow bananas, and all you have to do is throw them on a boat and ship them across the world. When boats aren't very polluting.
Well,
so, get over your xenophobia, man.
I'm not sure. No, it's just like, well, I live in New Zealand. I'm probably not meant to munch on bananas every day.
Oh, what a sad and narrow world.
I disagree with that whole, that we say don't, this whole buy locally thing. It's bunkum. I mean, maybe I'm not so much buy local, but I'm definitely buy in season. Yeah,
well, that's good. That's good, and buy local when you can, for sure. I think that's a great idea. But it's hardly fair on the poor of the world if we can't support them. Can't support their produce and their initiatives. And I think one of the great things about capitalism is that it's allowing the poor of the world to get out of their the poverty trap.
But you've got to wonder though. Like, I mean, if us Western people we didn't demand these damn bananas, things might have evolved quite differently in their country.
Well, I suppose if nobody ate the bananas, then nobody would be buying them, and nobody be buying them, then they'd be growing them. There wouldn't be any work.
Well, they might be doing something else.
I suppose they might. They might be scratching around.
Scratching.
Doesn't take long for the capitalists to come out, does it?
No, not at all. But I'm not saying that we don't know. I mean, something else, some other business model might have evolved for that country. Who knows?
That's true. But I think there is, and I'm holding to it. There's a very strong argument to make that informed free trade, and I say that carefully, informed free trade is good for the poor of the world because it connects them to markets. What's more idiotic is that Australia, drought-filled parts of South Australia grow rice and water has to be pumped out of the Murray River to irrigate land that's growing rice.
Yeah.
When less than 5,000 miles away in Southeast Asia, the rain falls out of the sky and the rice can't be stopped from growing. And the same with sugar. There are in Italy, the European Union subsidises the local growth of sugar when sugar cane just grows naturally in Ethiopia. And if we could get rid of these ridiculous imbalances in the global economy and reward people for their local conditions, that's got to be a good thing.
That's a good point. I agree with that. Thank you very much, Vincent.
Thank you, Wammo.
Cheers, Vincent Heeringa over at Idealog and Good Magazines.